On our podcast, Dessert Before Breakfast, we review final episodes of TV shows with one catch. At least one of us hasn't watched any of the series before.
Who built these robots?
This shouldn't be difficult!
Is it a metaphor? What does it mean? Where was the creek?
Yeah, I saw no creek.
Did it ever show up? Yeah.
Wow.
Dessert Before Breakfast. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
I don't know what's happening.
A lot of people have worn those headphones. A lot of greasy ears.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
I know that, Mr. Man. They also call them cereals. I'm not stupid, you know.
The story is ludicrous. You can imagine where it goes from here.
Fixes the cable.
There's nothing to do anymore, and all the great themes have been used up, turned into theme parks. So I don't really find it exactly cheerful to be living in the totally, exhausted decade where there's nothing to look forward to and no one to look up to.
He's got a pirate radio station. Nobody knows who he is.
This is a song for the 90s. I like the idea that a voice can just go somewhere uninvited, like a dirty thought in a nice, clean mind.
This radio person is the whole problem. Are we going to allow this guy to be heard by anyone who can turn a dial? I'm trying to tell you that there's something wrong with this school.
Why not do something crazy? It makes a hell of a lot more sense than blowing your brains out.
You out there? You listening?
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to episode 30-something, 40-something, 50-something, I don't even know, of the Black Dog Video After Dark podcast. My name is Dylan Reimer. I am a Vancouver-based comedian and employee of Black Dog Video here in East Vancouver, and as always, sitting to my left is...
I'm Alex Chisholm. I work at Black Dog Video Commercial Drive, and I'm also a programmer at the Rio Theater just down the street.
And I am Darren Gay. I own this dank establishment in the bowels of East Van. And speaking of treats, giving us treats, I got some treats today from a customer.
No kidding.
Yeah. One of my favorite customers, his name is Volker, nice older gentleman.
Oh, I know him.
Gentleman. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He came in and he gave me a movie that he liked. He gave me a new razor and a big fat joint. And some candies.
It looks like he used the razor.
No, the razor's still in its plastic covering.
You know what you got going on? Now, we are all bearded. Alex is the least bearded, but we all are at some degree of facial hair growth. You have got this weird triangle thing going, Darren, with the your mustache is darker than the rest of your beard, and so you look kind of like evil Spock, or as I was saying, I was saying Michael Gross earlier, but I don't think you like Michael Gross. I meant it as a
he's
compliment.
okay. I didn't mind Family Ties when that show was on.
It's a good show, and
the first Tremors is good.
He's in the Tremors series, and he's in Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we can talk about the Michael Gross-averse later for the Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, there you go. It'll be a special bonus episode.
We are not here to talk about Michael Gross. We are here to talk about the 1990 film, or 1990 with a zero, the 1990 film Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume.
Starring Christian Slater and directed by the unfortunately named Alan Moyle.
He's a legend of Montreal cinema.
Well, I looked him up. Okay, if you're going to ask why he's unfortunately named, well,
I know what a moil is.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's an unfortunate name.
Right.
It's like having foreskin
as removal guy.
Well, isn't it the actual removed foreskin skin that is the moil?
I thought the moil was the guy who did the job. I don't know. I
do the job.
I've been circumcised, but I don't remember who did it.
I imagine a doctor would have done that, not a moil, or is a circumcision doctor, a non-Jewish circumcision doctor, referred to as a moil?
I think a moil is a Jewish fellow who cuts the foreskin off the penis in a ceremony called a bris, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Now that we got all figured out.
We're learning shit.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay. So I when I IMDb'd Alan Moyle, I was delighted to find out that he is a Canadian director, and it sounds like Alex knows a little something about this.
Yeah. Well, he's got his roots in Montreal, as far as I know. I don't know if he's originally from there, but he's connected with. He helped co-create a film called Montreal, Maine in the 70s, which is like a major film, like milestone of queer cinema in Canada.
Okay, right.
And he also directed a film that's very similar to this in 1980 called Times Square.
Oh.
And Times Square was produced by Robert Stigwood, who, of course, produced Grease and Saturday Night Fever. But he produced Saturday Night Fever first and then Grease, but the big decline in his fortunes were with the Sgt. Pepper movie,
which we
recently riff-tracked, and then he followed up with his attempt at a punk new wave movie called Times Square, and it was directed by Alan Moyle. But Alan Moyle, he's also been a character actor. He's got a small part in Shivers. Or not Shivers, pardon me, Rabid, Cronenberg's second feature.
Well, not only that, according to his IMDb page, as an actor, he got his big break in the movie Squeeze Play as Wet T-Shirt Water Boy.
Oh.
Which I assume is the guy who brings the water to the Wet T-Shirt contest.
Pretty good
He's
role,
had a really
or maybe he's a superhero. I don't know.
He's had a really interesting career, and he had another hit in the 90s called, what was it? New Waterford Girl, which I was going to say. That's a really good
Canadian
movie.
film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Alan Moyle has directed 2 movies that I love and 1 movie that I absolutely hate. And so,
what's the one you hate?
Empire Records.
Oh,
that's right. I forgot he directed that, but he did direct it.
Empire Records is bona fide one of the worst movies that I've ever seen.
It's got a huge cult following. I'm not a fan myself.
I don't get
but
it.
It's a very beloved film. I totally forgot. You're right. He did direct it.
He did.
He also directed The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Didn't see that.
But I do love New Waterford Girl. I think it's
Times Square is very similar to Pump Up the Volume, and it didn't quite catch on. It's about runaways who are living in Times Square, and they tune into this philosophical DJ played by Tim Curry.
Wow, so it's almost identical to
in a way.
That sounds awesome.
So, like I said, I can't remember if he's originally from Montreal, but he made his career there, his name there.
So he's a Canadian boy done good.
Yep.
I think. I mean, he only has 13 film credits on his IMDb.
More than we have.
It's 13 more than I've got.
Impressive.
Yeah, and Pump Up the Volume. I guess it was my pick. So
yeah, why'd you pick this? Why'd you make us watch this?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think we do a lot of science fiction, a lot of horror, and so just trying to think of something that wasn't that, and something that was significant. And then I honestly have no idea how it jumped into my head. I think my girlfriend mentioned that she hadn't seen. It was one of her favorite movies, and that
she wasn't screaming "Pump Up the Volume" at you at some point in
she
your
sure
relationship?
Was. Talk hard.
Hey.
And then I remembered how much I love this movie, and that I haven't seen it in a long time. And the question is, would I still love it as a 46-year-old,
a grown ass man?
And my first dose of Pump Up the Volume was when it first came out. I'm pretty sure I went and saw it in theaters. I think I must have snuck in because this has to be R-rated because there's a lot of swearing in it.
A lot of swearing, a lot of sexy
and
swearing.
And there's boobs and stuff, but not gratuitous.
No,
and
not at all.
but you know, I loved it, and I had the soundtrack. Like everybody in my grade 10 class had the soundtrack, and that's why I learned about the Descendants, and my first taste of Leonard Cohen, and
but not your last taste,
and the Pixies, of course. No, my last taste of Leonard Cohen.
Yum.
Anyway, whatever. It was bile. It was coming up.
Oh.
Anyway, and so I suggested that we do it for the podcast, and I just watched it again this afternoon, and I have some thoughts on it.
I'm sure you do.
How about you, Alex? Had you seen it before we did it for the podcast?
I saw it before. I only saw it once, and it was when it was new on video in the early 90s. Like, I was still in high school when this film came out. And yeah, I didn't love it. I liked it a lot, though. And but that was the only time I saw it before. Then I've heard the soundtrack a few times over the years. A former roommate used to have a CD of it, and it's a good compilation.
Yeah.
I play it sometimes.
But it didn't inspire you to
start your own ham radio business?
To rebel.
It didn't.
No. Yeah.
No. I appreciated stuff it was saying at the time.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty. I mean, even though the film's. I mean, we'll get more into the actual film itself shortly, but
we sure will.
But really a stylized look at a way a teenager would be articulating himself or whatever, him or herself, in this case, a himself, and still, it raises valid points. The script about it's a realistic look at how kids feel and stuff. But I mean, I recognized that at the time, but I also groaned a bit because I found it a bit corny. But
okay,
it still is corny.
I mean, I think maybe in my case, because I was also in high school, I think because I had just turned 15. You know what I mean? Like you develop a lot when you're a teenager. And so I think maybe even if I saw this when I was 17 or 18, I might have found it corny.
Yeah.
But I think because I was on the younger side of adolescence, I probably experienced it differently than you did. How about you there, Michael Gross?
I watched it probably when it came out. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater or not, but I watched it early on, like in the 90, 91, whenever it came out on video, I imagine. And I'll be honest, I really liked it when it came out. I was older than you guys. I probably still am. Would have been 25 in 1990. So yeah, I would have been 25 years old when I watched it. So it's a little past my expiry date. But it's still, I'm also a little Arrested Development kind of guy. I'm always like things a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I liked it. I liked what it had to say. I liked its anger. I liked, it's just, it spoke to me back then, man. And I like the soundtrack. And there's stuff I don't like about it. But overall, I thought it was a great little film.
It definitely has its problems.
Mm.
So let's just jump in.
That's both feet.
So it starts out with
the first thing that the DVD asks is, "You want to watch it in widescreen or full screen?"
Which I appreciated because
I don't. I think that's stupid. I shouldn't even give you the option. People watch movies in widescreen. So like have one eye gouged out. Watch the movie as it's filmed.
What?
Don't watch it in full screen.
Oh, you just said widescreen.
I did.
Widescreen.
Oh no! I put your eyes back in. No, widescreen all the way. No full
You've
screen.
exposed yourself.
Now your elderly years are.
What'd you say?
Are catching up with you.
Yeah. No, sorry. Let me rephrase.
You're not
that.
25 anymore, man.
Movies should be watched the way they're shot. Widescreen's the only way.
I agree.
Movies.
I mean, yeah.
So it's kind of funny that they do give you the option.
People who watch full screen should be thrown off of bridges on television.
On fire.
They should be made examples of.
Yeah, exactly. Round them up.
And it starts out with it's your standard shot of like a school bus coming to school, or does it actually start? I think
it starts out. You just watched it this afternoon.
I know, but
I watched it 2 nights ago.
Last
night.
The very beginning, I think maybe you hear a bit of Christian Slater plays a teenager who has a ham radio set up in his basement, and he's like a pirate radio DJ called Happy Harry Hard-On.
Yeah,
and I think you hear a snippet of like the Happy Harry show.
Yeah, I think that the first line that I wrote down here. Do you ever get the feeling that America is just fucked? I do. Yeah, which is
every waking minute. Happy Harry Hard-On.
I know. Well, that's one thing I still liked about this movie. Is like a lot of these themes are still prevalent today. Like a lot of the stuff is still resonates with today's youth probably, and just in society in general. So it was nice to see that it wasn't that dated, despite the the outfits and the hair and some of the music.
I remember like one of the reasons I loved it so much is it was a movie about teenagers for teenagers. That was neither patronizing nor sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't Pretty in Pink, and
it wasn't Revenge of the Nerds.
And it wasn't Revenge
stupid.
of the Nerds. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like I mean, there are characters and like there are issues. Suicide comes up. There's a gay character in this movie who isn't like flouncing, mincing.
They didn't make fun of him.
He's like a normal dude.
Yeah,
and he's angry like anybody would be. I mean, like I remember feeling it was refreshingly honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because a lot of times when you're like 15 or 16 watching a movie, that was you can tell if it's been written by like a 60-year-old,
white guy,
like a Reefer Madness or whatever, where it's like, hey. Mm-hmm. Dudes and dudettes, it's like a joke, right?
Yeah, because they don't know kids at all.
But this movie actually, I didn't find it condescending.
Yeah,
and I was surprised rewatching it, like how much of it I still really respected. Like it wasn't an entirely nostalgic orgy for me. Like, I think if I just watched it for the first time at my age, I think I would have really liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it starts out with like, do you ever get the feeling that America's fucked up? It's a little bit of his ham radio show, and I think you see like a shot of the suburbs at night.
I like it sets the tone for what the movie is, which is a good way. I thought the movie started really well. I like that a lot.
And then you get like, but then you do get that cheesy '90s kind of aesthetic where it's like, wow,
yeah,
pump up the. It's like Christian Slater,
And then after that, it's like I don't recognize anybody else's name in this movie.
Well, Ellen Green, but you wouldn't, because you hated.
Well, hey, Samantha Mathis, and it's
introducing
her.
Yeah, I don't think her name is last, and that's I look at all these names, and it's like I don't know any of these people in this movie.
But there are recognizable actors.
I saw Seth Green in that movie.
I also really loved
Seth Green was in it?
Yeah.
At one point, there's a shot of
really?
and at one point there's a shot of Richard Grieco a still of him on the wall of one of the characters, one of the female characters.
But he's
has
not
a
in
picture
it,
of no.
But she's
but
one of the
has a picture
lame-ass
of him-
ones.
Has a picture of him as Booker in 21 Jump Street, which was totally on the air at the time.
Yeah.
Which was like totally on the air
Christian
at the time.
Slater.
Totally.
His
Christian Slater was
photos
trying to help
tacked
out
to
his
the wall.
friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but my buddy Greco.
You can't
because
get in the movie,
because
no?
they turned up in Mobsters together,
They did eventually.
which we have
yes.
here at Black Dog Video. Mobsters.
Never seen it.
If
Young
you,
Guns and the
if you,
Roaring
if you saw
20s.
if you saw Goodfellas and you were like, I'd like to know what these guys were like when they were teenagers, or 21-year-olds.
When they were children.
It rips off Goodfellas
Yeah.
quite a bit. It's
It's
fun.
be-
The
it's-
freeze
it's-
frames and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
that's right.
Freeze frame.
Yeah. And we see
Dr. McDreamy's in there.
my favorite shot ever in these movies: the school bus arriving at the school, and for some reason, like the vice principal is chastising students as they get off the
He's
bus.
pulling certain ones
Well,
aside.
he yoinks a guy and a girl off the bus. We find out later why.
Yeah.
because she's pregnant and they boot her out of school.
Right.
Yeah, for being
And
pregnant.
her name, the actor's name is like Chrissy or something.
Okay, I don't know.
And it's really weird because when she gets off the bus, you see the name of the actor on the screen. It's like Chrissy Jones,
Right.
And then the principal,
Chrissy Jones.
the vice principal's like, Chrissy, right this way. It's just like it's something I noticed every time I watch this movie, and I wonder if it's deliberate or not because it seems like a strange coincidence.
But it's probably a coincidence. It must be.
But yeah, so we've got this like mean faculty.
Right.
Just your day's gonna suck the second you get to school. I guess if you drive or walk, then you're left alone.
Well, there's a scene just before. Well, the credits are still going on, and there's like the camera pans down all of his cassettes.
Oh,
and
yeah,
look
yeah,
at
yeah.
all the cool bands he's got.
Well,
there.
I don't
Like,
think we've quite gotten there yet.
Oh, yeah,
right?
we have.
No, not yet. Because that's
This is where the credits are still rolling.
but the credits come in later. The credits is
Right.
like we have some kind of scene in the school, and then it cuts to we actually see Happy Harry Hard-On's little DJ bedroom that
Yeah.
he's got set up.
He rhymes fork with dark. Bit of a stretch because he's doing some
Hey, if you're British,
Yeah.
fuck, doc.
I thought it was pretty funny actually.
All right, it's a doc fuck. And I was surprised that Camper Van Beethoven has been around that long. I swear to God, I thought they came out in the early 2000s.
Didn't they turn
No,
into
I
somebody
remember
else?
them in the early 80s.
Did they turn into They Might Be Giants or something like that? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
All I know is that Camper Van Beethoven is my favorite pun band name.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I just think it's really funny.
Because it's a good one.
And they have some decent music.
Yeah.
And this is also where we should play that. Actually, whoever edits this, we should have Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen playing
Through the whole podcast.
The whole thing on a loop.
Yeah.
But I remember that was the first Leonard Cohen song I ever heard was in this movie, and I was like, "Who's this?
Who's that sultry crooner?"
That's some serious shit. This guy's laying down some truth bombs."
Yeah.
So we see all of his gadgets and whatever, and,
Yeah.
and his little wind up boner
thing.
his little jumping boner with
yeah.
feet.
He has a Sergeant Slaughter action wrestling figure on
I didn't
his
notice that.
control board.
Somebody
Shows up
actually
a couple
made
of
that
times.
little bouncing penis with feet.
For the movie?
No, like it's probably a real thing.
Oh, a child
Yeah.
in a Chinese factory,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Can you imagine-
Millions and millions of them.
Imagine the people that are making that,
Yeah.
like probably say in China or India or Bangladesh, wherever. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this?
And if you don't meet your quota, you're fired from the boner
Or you
the
lose
hopping boner factory.
Or you lose a hand or
That's
something.
a band name right there.
The Hopping Boner Factory, Camper Van Boner Factory. It's a sad story behind that, or maybe it's an
Yeah.
American-made boner. Who knows?
Maybe.
In the '90s, you
I
still
don't-
had options.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of things were manufactured overseas yet.
No.
Back then, I
Yeah.
think it was probably a good old American ingenuity and know-how made that bouncy little foot boner.
I was also thinking, it's like as this movie progresses, he's such a cynical character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on the outside, whatever, or the character that he
His
presents,
on-air persona.
His on-air persona is very cynical.
Yes.
And I remember just thinking, like in the '90s, like 1990, that wouldn't have been so bad. Like, okay, you still had Reagan, I think, or it was Bush.
That was George Bush.
It was Bush
at that
the
point.
elder.
Yeah.
Like, life would have been fucking great.
I don't know. Well, compared to who they had now.
Like, well, anyway.
But the thing is, like, he's also disillusioned because he's moved from New York to Arizona, wherever the fuck they are,
which would suck.
Yeah. So he's got no friends. It's like the parents bought him this ham radio set up so he could talk to his friends back in New York because I don't know, phones don't reach the long distance that hadn't been invented.
I guess so.
I'm not sure. Here's a ham radio for you, kid.
Well, that's what cracks me up. One thing in this movie is, as the movie runs along, the authorities are trying to figure out the identity of this mystery DJ, and it's like he's got to be a relative of someone who works at the school. It's like, well, how many school members just moved there and also gave their kid a ham radio? Like, it'd be the easiest.
It'd be pretty easy to
plot to foil.
And there's even more because he just goes. His dad turns out his dad is like a teacher or a counselor.
He's like an administrator at the school.
He's
like an administrator.
So he's an administrator at the school at HHH, Hubert Humphrey High.
Yeah, or Harry Hardon.
And he calls himself Happy Harry Hardon.
Like
you don't need to be a Sherlock Holmes to figure this out. It's like, what school does he go to? Oh, he just moved here, and he has access to like telephone numbers and all these files. Anyway, but
it's just. But anyway, you wouldn't have a movie if they figured out right away who he was, obviously. And I was willing to accept that, but it still did amuse me. For example, like even at one point, because the father must know about this notorious DJ at this point. He's just like, that ham radio I gave you so you can keep in touch with me. Like,
your friends back in, because ham radios can totally reach New York from
DJ
Arizona.
Who just suddenly appeared as we moved here, and then, and I happen to give you radio equipment.
And why are you locked in the basement all the time?
Why are you locked in the basement? As if they couldn't hear him.
I know, because he's so loud.
And
I just hear you screaming for like 40 minutes and then and you masturbate 6 times an hour.
But anyway, accepting all that, which I was happy to do.
I was happy to.
Even though it was ridiculous.
There's a minimal amount of
because still, this movie has a lot of good things to say, especially.
And also, I think part of the point is that apparently every parent in this suburb is completely unaware and uncaring of their teenager's life.
Yeah.
I get that it's from the viewpoint of an adolescent who feels pressured by society, and in the suburbs, like Happy Harry Hardon, Christian Slater's parents would never dream to think that the problem would be in their own home.
Yeah.
Isn't that just like the suburbs and by extension all of America? I think it was supposed to be a fairly ham-fisted and obvious.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, another reason too. What helped me suspend my disbelief that he's not caught immediately also is that they're supposed to be kind of dumb and uncaring and unfocused. I don't just mean the parents.
The grown-ups in this movie are so lame. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
grown-ups,
in movies like this, the grown-ups are always lame. And the thing I liked about his parents were they're out of touch, obviously. Dad wears suspenders. He tells bad dad jokes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're former hippies from the 60s. Who have some good ideals.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that when they go into their parents' bedroom or in his office, whatever, he's got Grateful Dead posters on the wall.
Yeah.
It's just like gives him.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, it just gives him just a little bit more depth. I guess.
See, but then doesn't Happy Harry Hardon think that his dad is a big sellout?
Well, he does.
Yeah, he does. And that was the general take on yuppies at that time, anyway, especially ex-hippies.
Teenagers are always going to think their parents are lame and sellouts and everything. The teenagers don't like their parents.
Oh my god! Like this movie brought back some arguments with my mom, where I was just like such a dick. It never even occurred to me that she was a human being. It's like, you're just the worst.
Yeah.
Or every teacher I ever had, and then I was thinking like, whatever happened to selling out? That's not even. Like when this movie was made, the idea of selling out was like you were betraying your entire species. It was the worst thing you could do was sell out.
Yeah.
And we are so cynical now. We are so past sellout.
We're looking forward to selling it.
Well, it's not even a thing. It's like blinking. It's just, well, obviously you'll get co-opted. Like nobody had. It's very difficult to have any integrity when everyone's on Facebook and. You know what I mean? Like
everyone's a happy Harry now because we all have our platform.
People find our podcast on Apple. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
and I've never.
The world has gotten to a point where like selling out is just. It's just infused with day-to-day life.
Well, it's also like what is selling out? Like if you look at Happy Harry Hardon's parents, like that, why are they sold out? Because he has a job. Actually, a job in the education system, which it's not a bad thing. Like you can actually do something positive.
Because they moved from a cool place like New York to the lame-ass suburbs of Arizona.
Yeah, for a better job and for more money. He actually mentions more money.
Yeah, and also he's a stupid fucking 16-year-old who doesn't really understand the pressures of adulthood. They probably were. Yeah. And they bone. There's a weird scene later on when it's like
the parents were boning.
Well, there's this weird scene when they think he's. I can't remember what it's at. They have a PTA meeting later in the movie, he has to hide all his equipment, which I couldn't figure out because if his parents bought him the ham radio, then why is he hiding the ham radio?
They're going to know it's all
I guess
there.
he must have added new stuff or whatever.
And they've never been down into the garage or whatever since they moved on.
Or when he's at school, they don't go into his room and snoop around. Anyway, but I'm just thinking like the luxury of the notion of selling out in the 90s, where it's just like this idea of integrity. It's like that is such an old concept. So I wonder what a 16-year-old watching this movie about a teenager who is like, oh, my parents are sellouts. Would that teenager even understand?
Yeah, listen, you sound like a parental sellout right now. It's like, that's right, Dylan. Kids today have no integrity.
Smart artists sell
That's
out.
what you sound like. I don't even. Yeah, it's what you sound like right now. It's
I wish I had enough brains to sell out when it was still worth something.
Man, kids today don't know what sellout means, man. We sold out. My generation knew how to. Like, come on.
I was gonna watch this.
I would have sold out when selling out meant something, but now it's like, fuck, I didn't even get the money.
I know, I didn't get a chance to.
I have no integrity, but I can't even pay my rent.
I don't know if you remember that.
I was going to watch this with my 15-year-old because I thought he might enjoy it, but then I was remembering that, well, it's always weird watching stuff with like lots of sex stuff with your kid. I guess not a big deal, but I remember just his name. The only thing I remember about this movie actually was his name. Harry Hardon. I don't remember.
Harry Hardon.
Happy. I didn't remember anything else about this movie. And so, but then when I was watching things, that scene when he's pretending to masturbate, and it goes on and on, and it's like, oh god, it's like I'm actually happy I'm not watching this with my kid right now because he'd be horribly embarrassed.
I'd really like to splice it together with Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally. Splice together the two scenes.
Oh yeah,
why don't you?
Yeah,
do it. Get out your.
But hold on,
men can fake it.
But hold on, is he masturbating to Meg Ryan making those noises?
They're faking it to each other.
Even as a kid, I remember thinking like his fake masturbation didn't sound legit.
No, well, it was dumb. It was like a little much.
Like real masturbation is silent.
Yeah, you don't yell.
You don't grunt and
yell.
But you can't.
And this
have
whole thing,
silence on
this
the
whole
air.
like whatever that disgusting.
He's slapping the back of his neck.
Like let's try it right now. I don't know. Every time I've masturbated, it's been totally quiet. And sad.
Well, that's because you have a micro.
But I never do it on the radio. I haven't tried
exactly.
yet. Well, once at CITR, but that's another story. So anyway, yeah. So I guess the first few scenes are just him doing his radio show.
And then we're introduced to the kids at school and stuff like that. And
we find out that he's actually like this really introverted kind of bookish.
He walks his head down all the time.
Wallflower. And he goes now. Is this where he goes to the line? Oh yeah. And I was going to say I just love the animated credits that look like graffiti.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore. You know?
That was pretty cool. The popular girl at school, she just got a CD player. She's like, yeah, what's her name? Just got a CD player. You want to come over and listen? It's like, sure.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the characters who are important to this movie are not terribly well developed.
No, they're not.
Like that popular girl is, I mean, I don't see her being...
At least they give her something later on in the movie. You know, because she's the one that loads up the microwave and blows up all her shit.
Yeah.
So that at least they give her something.
But I think we see a lot of, later in the movie, we see a lot of rebelling teenagers.
Yeah.
But we didn't see what they were like before they rebelled.
What they're rebelling
I
against,
think a little more with that popular girl, like where, because I don't think we saw anything with her.
No, because like there's one scene when he tries to talk to her and it's incredibly awkward. But that's about it. That's about the only.
If you're this bookish, like this guy who has this weird radio show at night, but you're horribly shy at school during the day, and you're going to ask a girl out, are you going to go for the most popular girl in school? No, you're going to go for somebody a little more attainable.
Yeah, well, it's like shoot high.
Yeah, go with somebody a bit uglier.
Or he's not a bad looking guy.
Somebody who's kind of dumb. No, but they
go for the dumb, ugly people.
Well, they kind of make him out to be like this guy who eats his lunch by himself, and for some reason he has no friends.
And he's reading Lenny Bruce.
It's very Superman.
That made me so he goes to the so I think this is pretty much where the plot starts kicking in. He returns books to the school library. One of the books is How to Talk Dirty and Influence People by Lenny Bruce, and I'm just like, what school? By the way, a school is supposed to be this Orwellian figure of authoritarian,
right?
And they've got like Lenny Bruce. Like I don't even think that the library down the street has How to Talk Dirty and Influence People.
Knows?
I mean, that's a bit of a niche book.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't even know what they had there. Who knows?
I will say, yeah, because we talked about this on another podcast, but when I was in grade 7, there were these cowboy books that I guess none of the grown-ups knew were like downright pornographic. And so the Jake Logan Slocan cowboy novels, like the kids just couldn't stop reading them, but that's because it was like
all sex and
graphic
tying
sex
up and stuff. Wow.
Well, no, it's just boning, but it was good enough for us.
Yeah.
So who knows? And also, it's an underfunded education system, so they're just getting freebies. But a hardcover, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People by Lenny Bruce, which I've read a couple of times.
Right.
And
of course,
I've read it once.
Plenty of swearing in that book.
I have never read it.
No, I could see it creeping into a school library. But anyway.
Like Christian Slater.
Christian Slater. It's kind of like a superhero movie. Eh? Like he's all meek by day, but like the superhero, the anonymous superhero by night.
Yeah, he's kind of
totally
like I was thinking Peter Parker the whole time.
I like
that too, Peter Parker.
And I like just before this scene, like I think might have been on that new CD player the girl had. They're playing. I don't know who it was, but it's like the song is like, "Let's get buck naked and fuck."
Two Live Crew.
Is that Two Live Crew?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
thought that was hilarious. Like what,
I remember that.
You don't see that.
It's Two Live.
I remember the song totally, but I just couldn't remember.
Two Live Crew had a couple of albums at the exact same time.
They were heavily like frowned upon by Tipper Gore and all those lunatics,
which only made them more popular.
Well, they faced an obscenity trial in Florida. They were actually.
Was that Big Butts song? Is that the one that the?
I don't know.
No, it had a song. We want some pussy.
Yeah, and they had face down, ass up. That's the way we like to fuck.
It was an obscenity trial,
right,
involving that album.
And by the way,
that's great.
And for our Patreon listeners, Alex and I are going to release an album, Two Old Crew. And where we'll just be reading the lyrics of Two Live Crew.
As geeky as we want to be.
My friend had that album, that Two Live Crew album, and it's the most padded thing I've ever listened to.
Of course, yeah.
I think there's only 4 songs in the entire album.
A lot of.
And all I could think whenever I listen to Two Live Crew is it's like when like 11-year-olds first learn to swear, so they should just have a song that just goes like poopy poopy farty 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 bum poopy fart fart poopy fart fart, because that's all Two Live Crew was. They had nothing to say. Like I could see like NWA or whatever, the
only reason they got popular is because
got threatened
of
by the FBI.
You know what? You should bring them up. That is obscene. Two Live Crew had no artistic.
No, the only reason it got popular.
You think it deserved an obscenity trial?
No, of course not. Anyway, whatever.
Well, it speaks to me.
But I remember it back in the day. Yeah.
It's not on the soundtrack. Most very notably is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This actually this movie. Only about 50% of the songs that are in this movie are on the soundtrack.
But that's pretty common with films. Like when you buy the actual soundtrack, a lot of songs, especially when they're more popular hits, don't appear on.
Yeah,
the
like in fact, the Leonard Cohen everybody knows isn't on it either. So I was actually way more familiar with the Concrete Blonde one.
Their version of "Let's Get Butt Naked and Fun."
That's right.
I like the Nana Muscuri version of that.
Yeah. Yanni does a good one.
So then he's back on the radio, and we find out he hates. I wrote down he hates a lot of things. The 1960s school and guidance counselors are like the top of his hit list, especially guidance counselors.
Which spoke to me because I fucking hated guidance counselors too.
I don't think I ever saw a guidance counselor.
I saw a couple of guidance counselors. I didn't mind them.
I had terrible grades and I had a bad attitude. Like I got suspended a lot. And I had divorced parents, and like our guidance counselor just kept dragging me. I swear to God, like every 2 weeks I had to go see. I probably shouldn't name. Fuck it. His name was Mr. Munch, and he had. I know, like come on, Mr. Munch, and
did he end up on Law
and
and
he
Order?
had hypertension, so like you could like he would never blink, and he would just like stare at you. And I would always imagine like a fly.
Maybe he had no eyelids.
A fly landing on his eyeball. And like crawling around, no blinking.
Just it would just be lapping up all the liquid out of his eyes.
Actually, Mr. Munch, our science teacher, we were in the middle of sex ed, and for whatever reason, she called him sick or whatever. So Mr. Munch had to come in with those creepy eyes, and I'll never forget this. He was describing the symptoms to gonorrhea, and he's like, he would always say this. He was like Jacob Tutu. He would say like school will be ending early today. That is early today. Like he would always repeat the last.
Right.
So, but then for real, he comes in and he's like, "Where were you in your science books? Science books, kids?" And we go like, "Okay, we're doing sex ed." And he started reading the symptoms of gonorrhea, and I'll never forget him going, "Green curdy discharge." that is green curdy discharge. It still haunts me to my dying day.
That is a band name.
That explains
green curdy discharge.
That explains your tattoo,
Mr. Munch and the green curdy discharge.
That's pretty awesome.
He's just doing his job.
Well,
So,
can you imagine like him at home? Pass the mashed potatoes.
the mashed potatoes. He was a weirdo. He didn't blink.
Yeah.
I can only imagine his nightmare children who also have equally bizarre faces.
Having sex with his wife. Is that good for you? Is that good for you?
Never mind, I don't care. Is that green curdy discharge? Green curdy discharge? Yeah, that's a problem when you start with Mr. Munch jokes is you have to repeat.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I understand, Happy Harry Hard-On.
He hates a lot of things.
He hates, but especially guidance counselors.
Yeah.
And so he takes it upon himself. Okay, and he has a voice. We should address this. He has a voice changer.
Like says that later
to disguise
on,
his voice.
Because at first I'm thinking as if they wouldn't recognize his voice right away.
No,
but,
they had it right from the start.
But I didn't notice it until he actually said on the
right, because it didn't change his voice that much.
No,
it kind of made it all deep like this.
It was kind of sort of like Christian Bale as Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and so he phones up, and this is the first thing where I was like, I thought this was awesome when I was 15, but now I'm like, what? He phones up his guidance counselor, and he's like, yeah, I'm from Guidance Counselor Radio. We want to give you an award. Tell me about your job. And the guidance counselor's like, oh, certainly, complete stranger who just phoned me at home.
But he's like, because it's like, someone from the media. It's like, so he's all excited about it.
Usually they say, can we arrange to meet and do a...
Yeah, but this is the 90s. Things are a little more freewheeling back
and he's
then.
such a dweeb too. He's
he's
like
a dweeb.
Yeah. He's got like Homer. I'm surprised Dan Castellaneta didn't play him. Actually, you know what I mean? He's like the grown-ups are so painfully square in this fucking movie.
Well, the characters themselves too. Like the adult characters are so much more dumb than they really should be. But I just let it slide.
Or evil.
They're characters. But this guy at the very end has a bit of it.
He reveals himself to be
an okay guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it, but like eventually, one of the students commits suicide, and then another the guidance counselor creates like a helpline.
So it's kind of like a helpline. He just reads
Bionic.
It's got a bad name, Bionic. Believe it or not.
Right.
I
It's
care.
supposed to be.
But and that's the teenagers that we're supposed to like feel for are like, oh, so I guess after 2:30, I can't kill myself. What a lame ass. But then again, that's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Like teenagers are kind of dicks.
Of course they are.
That's just ripe for making fun of when you're a teenager. Everyone's just going to laugh at that.
But he's trying. He's like, oh my god, a student killed themselves last night.
But I think he's doing that in response to because Harry Hard-On is giving advice. Kind of thing. I think.
I guess that's. Yes. Yeah. But Bionic is not the way to go.
No, because
it's supposed to be.
But you know
bad.
he was
bad,
you know he was probably a huge Lee Majors fan growing up,
right?
And he's like the kids are gonna love this.
Yeah.
Oh, that cool $1 million man. Everyone knows that, right? Right,
like,
kids.
who?
Yeah.
So anyway, so Happy Harry Hard-On. Yeah, he basically like pulls these pranks and so on.
He calls a dude, and there's like he reads a gross letter that alludes to incest. I think that to the guidance counselor.
Yeah, and they conveniently cut away to the people who actually wrote the letter, and there's a couple of like 13-year-old girls who are giggling and like
right, because that's right. Yeah.
So just so you're not like, oh, this guy like doesn't this guy doesn't care that someone's getting raped at home. Like
But they wanted. I think that because that would have been a really heavy thing to bring into the movie, especially at that point, like. Someone's being sexually abused, like so. The letter's shown to be a prank, but what he confronts the guidance counselor with is information that the guidance counselor was in on helping to expel a pregnant student.
Right.
Right.
Who we saw at the beginning.
So Happy Harry Hard-On is actually kind of like a good.
He's a
better journalist than the actual journalist who turns up later.
Yeah, totally.
Was his name Chet Chetner or something?
Something like that.
Shep Shepherd.
Shep Shepherd. Yeah.
So anyway,
but also this is when he's on the air, and the other two lines that I remember from this movie, which I was was he's talking about penis the ass of it's bigger than a baby's arm.
I know,
which I always thought was really funny.
That line, that's another line that stuck with me for some reason.
Yeah,
is it bigger than a baby's?
Yeah, that and I can smell a lie like a fart in a car. Yeah. I always liked that line for some reason. It was funnier back then. It's not as funny now.
No, I still think it's funny. So basically, it just kind of for the first 20 minutes or so, it bounces back between him doing his radio show and going to school.
Talk hard.
He meets, and there's the girl, Nora? Is that her name or Nina? Nora. And she's like...
Samantha Mathis.
She's kind of obsessed with... Samantha Mathis, we kind of have to talk about her. I'm guessing I just kept thinking a poor man's Winona Ryder.
Oh, I like her. I like. She has an interesting look. I like
her too.
She's got a big head. She's got a really big forehead, which I liked.
Really.
She gives good forehead. It's
yeah.
Like, yeah. It's just. I just.
She didn't remind me of Winona at all.
No, actually, I didn't cross my mind at all either.
Well, I think it was the way she dressed, and I was like, it would be weird if Winona Ryder was in this because of Heathers, and it's just like, you know what I mean?
Because they were both in Heathers.
They were both in Heathers, and Heathers was like what 3 years before this.
There's similar themes, you know?
or even sooner. I think it was like maybe 1 year before. But yeah, just for some reason, her performance, I never bought it.
No, I liked her.
She took me out of the movie every time she opened her mouth.
No, I liked her in this. Although there's some scenes when she's like people that act like surprised with their mouth hanging open. It's like nobody does that.
How about that kiss?
I know she's like she's like I was expecting her to unhinge her jaw like a big snake and they just like take him down.
Or like a fly or like a tennis ball. Like, oh, sorry, the tennis ball lands in her mouth. Like she's just got her mouth like wide open. It's the weirdest scene.
It is
in
a
any
really
movie.
really weird scene.
And they're at school, and they're just kind of circling each other with their mouths wide open. And
it's so bizarre.
I don't know what Mr. Boyle was going for or Moyle was going for on this one, but
I don't know either.
No, but the thing is, okay. She didn't ruin the movie for me. I just kept wishing like another actor was in that role.
She was great.
I thought she was good too. I thought she was fine. Didn't bother me at all. I thought she was totally solid in this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And we've also met this weird Billy Idol punk rock kid.
Oh, who got kicked out of school
for flaunting dress code.
Yeah. Can you get kicked out for? I don't know.
A good friend of mine got sent home on Easter Friday or whatever, around Easter.
For dragging across the school?
Well, for coming back from the grave.
Wow.
No, he wore a T-shirt where it was Elvis Presley nailed to a cross, and it said like Elvis Christ or something.
Nice.
And he was like, "Oh, thank you very much." And they were like, "On today of all days."
Well,
and they actually sent him home. And I was like, "Your dad could totally have sued the school." Yeah. Like, but it's like
that's insane.
And I got in trouble for offending a teacher's Christianity once.
Oh,
So back in the day, this getting kicked out was a thing,
I guess.
But he's like the punk rock guy, and he's really into Happy Harry Hard-On, and he's supposed to be 17 or whatever, but he talks like he's from a 1970s like cop movie. He's like, yeah, that Happy Harry Hard-On, he's the real deal. He's the goods.
And he looks like he's also like 32 years old.
He looks like Billy Idol. 20 years later.
Well, I like the fact that all the kids in this movie spend all their nights listening to the radio.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Well, we
it's
used
hilarious.
to. We used to listen to like Lights Out and
I used to listen to the radio to try hopefully tape a good song that came on, that kind of stuff with my little recorder.
Movie did make me nostalgic for driving around listening to fucking radio or mixtapes too.
Yeah, life's too easy now.
So she, even though she's a badass, she's also a librarian.
Which is that's okay.
She's never heard of
I know some badass librarians.
And
so
she's looking for Happy Harry Hard-On. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Happy Harry Hard-On or Mark returns the Lenny Bruce book, and she's like, "Oh, the Lenny Bruce book," and he's like,
she's actually never heard of him, which is cool. I like how they're learning.
Oh, of course. Like I don't doubt like that she's learning in all of this, but she's on the hunt for Hard-On, and then she opens. And she has like, I guess it's like new students. She has like this list of like new students and their photos from the school newspaper.
Right, she circles him.
And then she's like, nah, she crosses him out.
Well, I think she was possibly looking for, I don't know if he's looking for Harry Hard-On at this point or for like maybe possible date material.
I think
both.
Was
a cute new guy.
I think she wants to bone Happy Harry Hard-On.
Well, I think a lot of them did.
But she very quickly becomes convinced that it's Christian Slater.
Yeah, well, it's obvious it's him.
Yeah, he has such a distinctive acting style too. Is that like I was watching him, like I really like Christian Slater. I don't think he's a great actor, but for some reason I really like him.
He's like a little Jack Nicholson.
Yeah,
it's always been his thing.
And he rocked that, and you know he rocked it in
Heathers is great.
In Heathers and in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Cuffs, and all of these movies he was in.
True Romance,
but he's always had that. He's always had that widow's peak too. And he's always looked kind of old. Oh yeah, of course, fucking True Romance. Anyway,
he's good, Mr. Robot.
So she starts kind of figuring out. And he apparently has no idea how big his following actually is.
No, until he sees some graffiti and stuff painted on the walls and this and that.
Says, so be it.
Yeah,
that's one of his catchphrases.
I liked that she dressed like Beetlejuice. She looked like Beetlejuice
again with the Winona Ryder thing. She's even wearing like the white and black
stockings or socks,
which drives me crazy.
Like in a good way.
Totally huge turn on.
Yeah,
one of my first girlfriends wore those, and it was just like, oh my god, it's.
You just wear one on your dick now, don't you?
I've had it tattooed.
Oh, really?
Right
wow.
next to the Zardoz. I got so many tattoos on my dick. I'm running out of space.
Anyway, you have such a giant dick.
I know. They run out of ink every time. And then before I come, I go, do you want some Beetlejuice?
I know.
Say it 3 times. Beetlejuice.
That shouldn't be as funny as that was.
That's because we had a few drinks.
Exactly.
So anyway, so when does the plot actually really kick in?
Okay, so he's in creative writing class, which we're introduced to the only cool teacher,
Ellen Green from Little Shop of Horrors. Your least favorite movie because you're a monster.
No, it says I like a lot movies. I like a lot more movies worse than that or better than that.
You hate more better movies than.
Yeah, I don't like Little Shop of Horrors. But
see, I knew Ellen Green immediately. I'm like, oh, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, but so he reads his story and. She reads his story, and of course, he's a genius, and all this kind of stuff.
They're always these like great writers, you know. Yeah, they're never like, and then the dog took a dump. The end.
Yeah. Actually, there's a scene when they're right around here where they're walking down through the mall and they pass a video store. I always like looking. Yeah. I always like video stores and movies. And there's a poster of The Hidden on the.
That's true, and I saw the other two as well. They were The Prince of Pennsylvania.
What's that?
It's a bad movie with Fred Ward.
Fred Ward was in a bad movie?
And also Hairspray is barely visible. The two
really?
bums are dancing.
Well, there's a scene later on where they're actually in the video store as well. Like I think they're for some reason they're in the video store.
You see Rambo up on the wall.
Right.
One of the Rambos. It might be Rambo 3 at that point.
1990, yeah, probably around there. I like the fact that they're in the video store. But they're listening to the radio, listening to the Harry Hard On, whatever it's called, radio show. And like a big ghetto blaster kind of thing.
I really like because a good chunk of this movie is just cutaways of people listening to Happy Harry Hard On. And yeah, I like how normal the teenagers are. It's like there's like a slightly overweight kid who starts banging on bongos at one point.
And like he's not a lesser movie. He'd be ridiculed for being a big guy.
Yeah,
but he's cool. He sells the cassettes. Of the. I don't know why he needs to do that since everyone can listen to it anyways. But he's selling the cassettes of shows.
And he does that weird act of rebellion where he hooks the ghetto blaster up to the school speakers.
It was him and Seth Green did that.
Was that Seth?
Yeah, he had long hair and he looked like a young little. Like heavy metal rocking guy,
but it's like just normal fucking teenagers.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really appreciate it's well cast, and again, it's not like bullshit archetypes. It's you really feel like these teenagers are actual people.
Well, I guess we didn't even mention that the suicide part.
Well, okay, so that's probably where the plot
Yeah, because this is about 20 minutes or a half hour in the movie. Because Harry Hard On reads letters that people wrote into him, and then they leave a phone number, and then he phones them up and talks to them.
Yeah.
So he phones up this sad guy who's having a hard time.
Well, he phones up a few people.
Yeah,
but he phones one guy who sent a suicide note.
And in the beginning of the movie, you see him typing, "Should I kill myself?"
Oh, that's how he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning, you see like you don't see who's doing it though. You just see fingers typing. Should I kill myself?
Right.
And then it goes to the letters, and so you actually don't know like who it was or
right. Doesn't really matter.
It's well constructed.
Yeah.
And then he I guess the plot kicks off. He's been fucking with these principals and
just having fun kind of stuff,
and fucking with teachers and doing pranks and that kind of thing,
playing some cool
tunes. And the teachers are aware of him because they're like, this is and there's this one like militant. He reminded me of the general in Avatar. Like he's like this stock military. He winds up punching a fucking student at one point.
That's right. He punches the 30-year-old teenager that gets out of school. The Billy Idol guy.
It's like he just full on assaults someone, and this is
he punches him twice, which I thought was crazy.
He just hauls off and clocks him,
in the face, then punches him in the stomach.
I don't care if you're a teacher, you're not allowed to assault. Even if the guy isn't a student and he's been expelled, you still can't punch him in the face.
You can't punch anybody in the face. You shouldn't be punching anybody in the face,
especially a grown up versus a teenager.
This guy's so mad. He's just like. he's a total incel, right? Like, you know, and then the slightly fat kid who's selling the tapes, he's like, into the office, and they give him like the 3rd degree, and they're like, you better find out who this guy is.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like what?
Well, and that's a weird little plot thing that goes nowhere. It just ends right there.
It's just supposed to illustrate how evil the principal and this guy are. Anyway, we're not there yet. I guess the plot really gets rolling when Happy Harry Hardon phones up the "Should I kill myself?" kid.
Yeah,
and I guess doesn't properly.
Well,
he's not a counselor.
No, he's not a counselor. He offers some advice and stuff, but he doesn't really take it that seriously either.
Yeah,
because his show is not that serious. He doesn't have any serious issues to deal with.
Yeah, he just kind of generally muses how everyone feels that way sometimes.
But
then, being alone isn't a bad thing.
And then the next day they find out that the guy killed himself.
He did absolutely nothing to help.
Well, I wouldn't say he did absolutely nothing.
Maybe not, but
he didn't specifically say don't do it.
Yeah.
And he didn't really try and cheer him up. But he did say good night. He even named him good night, Sirius.
Right.
Maybe you'll feel better tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he did. Like,
well, what else are you going to do? Even if you said don't do it, doesn't mean he's not going to do it. Those words really don't mean anything, I don't think.
And so he shows up to school the next day, and one of the students has taken their own life. And I guess this is where the police take an interest.
Well, it's like it had nothing to do with it. It wasn't his fault. He can't be charged with anything, although they present it as he could be accomplice to murder, which is insane because one is not murder.
Because I just kept thinking, like, this is the FCC. When I was 15, I was like, oh, all cops are the same. Mm-hmm. But now I'm like, well,
all cops are the same.
I'm like,
you're like, all FCC is the same.
It takes a little bit of the conflict and tension out of it when you're like, oh no, he'll get a fine and be barred from being a broadcaster. Like, oh, but he's also 17, so I don't know. It's just like when the FCC is the big bad.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I don't really agree with that.
A guy in a limo shows up.
Oh, dude, no. The dad from Teen Wolf.
Is that who that is? I've never seen Teen Wolf.
The head of the FCC is Teen Wolf's dad, and he's such a dork.
Oh, he sure is. He's got the bad hairpiece.
Yeah, he's so evil. Yeah, I'm not really sure there's much of a story to talk about.
No, but there's
here.
not much story in. There's not much plot in this. It's like a rebellious ham radio guy gets some students to examine.
It's a series of speeches and how people react to it. And including people who want to shut him down.
Yeah, of course, because you got to have some sort of conflict.
Of course, yeah.
And the kid kills himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so the next night, Happy Harry Hardon goes on the Hardon show. You know, he switches it off, then turns it back on. He's like kind of conflicted,
right?
And then he has one of these monologues where he just eventually just starts going like, you know what? If you got to do something crazy and do something crazy, it's better than fucking killing yourself. And then everyone in town starts doing crazy stuff.
Have they played Kick Out the Jams?
They play Kick Out the Jams.
Yeah. MC5, I believe.
And and somewhere some people got a hold of a giant penis.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Is it like the Statue of Liberty under her skirt? I mean, I have no idea where do you get access to a giant penis.
It just shows up. Yeah.
In Arizona, I guess they're just everywhere.
I guess. Well, it's like they're like cacti.
That's right.
Well, and this is also when the popular girl microwaves all of her shit and blows her microwave up, and then shows up at the PTA meeting with like black eye and a bandage over her broken nose. I guess she got some shit in the face.
I'm just like, that's just stupid though. To put a bunch of jewelry in the microwave.
Yeah, it's an active
rebellion. No, I know, but then to sit there and stare at the microwave.
That was the dumb part.
Yeah,
but she's feeling self-destructive and.
Yeah, but does she want to? Like, maybe she didn't want to be pretty anymore. I don't know. Who knows?
So, and this is what triggers the because she was like the valedictorian and all this shit, and so her having her meltdown is probably what triggers the SAT obsessed principal who's willing to like ruin people's lives.
Just to get funding for the school so she can keep up the marks.
She is so evil.
Yeah.
And she's
almost comically evil.
Well, okay, in the third act, this movie crosses over into comical.
She's like snarling and twirling her mustache.
She reminded me of Mary Warnow in like Rock and Roll High School, like really over the top evil principal.
You know, she reminded me
Wicked
of
Warden.
Anita Horgoth from Uncle Buck.
I never saw Uncle Buck.
You've never seen Uncle Buck?
No.
It's so good.
I have a brother-in-law named Buck.
Uncle Buck is it's one of John Hughes' better movies. Right. Anyway, Uncle Buck puts.
I love John Candy, but
she's like this tyrant principal. She has a line that actually made me laugh out loud, where she gets confronted because she's been expelling people with bad grades for no reason. In this big evil moment, she goes and she says this to Ellen Green, like right after it's like, someone's going to stop you, blah, blah. And then the evil principal goes, the fact is, I have the highest average SAT score in the state.
Well, I know,
like
that. She just pulled that out of her pocket because it was
She's
so
like
powerful.
a Bond villain.
I was going to say, like, that's Bond villain, like, the highest average SAT. I'm going to
I wish she had a cat she was stroking at this point.
King of principals. Like, it's just like...
I know.
But, it does... The movie still works. It's just... They get to a point where the fucking vice principal punches, like, a teenager in the face on school property.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. But Happy Harry Hardon has to have something to
I think
be hard against.
This movie is really good until like the last act, I found, and then when the driving around and the running around and all that kind of dumb stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and so now Nora just walks up to him because he even says it like on his radio show. He's like, "Oh, I just sit there on the stairs." In a blue shirt, eating my sandwich.
He keeps mentioning
with a red carnation.
Stuff.
Yeah,
he's giving
one
somebody
red
hints.
shoe.
He just moved to town. He says repeatedly.
I'm a white guy with brown eyes, and I got a birthmark on the back of my neck. And then she just like walks up to him and is just like, "Are you really the hardest hard-on of all hards or whatever?" And he's just like, "What?" And she's just like, "Yeah, okay." Yeah, I'm trying to think of like story-wise, like what actually happens.
Well, there's not that much. They hook up, like he admits that it's him, and they're bringing in more feds and stuff. They bring in the feds, which is crazy. Whatever even that means.
There's a moment where a helicopter emerges.
Yeah, for a guy with a ham radio.
Like what? And the principal, he's going to expose the principal's dastardly scheme of the best SAT scores in Arizona.
I know. For what reason exactly?
I mean, it's I don't know.
The squares are getting uptight at this point.
And they're so square.
Yeah, I have written here. Crestwood's a maggot pusswad. I guess that was a line. Do you remember where that was from?
Yeah. It's when
who's Crestwood?
That's Crestwood is the evil principal lady.
She's
and
a maggot pusswad. That's a great line.
And her pit bull in a tie, fucking vice principal is like, someone just wrote something in the girls' change room. What did they write? I don't know if he wants to. Tell me, Crestwood's a maggot wad or whatever. It's like
maggot pusswad.
Maggot pusswads. Well, I mean, we would have just okay. And I grew up in Surrey where we had no.
There's maggot
hang-ups.
pusswads all over the place.
Well, no, we would have just said cunt. You know what? Your students are pretty smart if they're coming with maggot pusswad.
Well, that's way better.
You actually have the highest SAT scores. Mm-hmm. The students who hate you are very, very smart.
Probably from the creative writing class. She should have narrowed
probably.
that down.
Ellen Green is just like, she's a maggot pusswad.
Is that your Ellen Green
That's
impersonation?
my Ellen Green from
I
Little Shop of Horrors.
I thought she's in the room right now. That was weird.
Oh, Seymour.
Oh, God.
So this is when the news takes an interest in Shep Shepherd. Shep Shepherd. I love that name.
That's great.
He turns up, and for some reason, by the way, what is this fucking punk rock guy's beef with getting kicked out of, like, just go to another school?
Well, I know, but he doesn't. I don't know what he does during the daytime, but at nighttime he drives his car out into a football field and listens to the radio.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the rest
can't
of his...
believe they threw me out of school.
Well, like, shouldn't his parents maybe object to that, or somebody should,
or just go to another fucking school, or get a job, or I mean, I don't know, like. So he shows up with some smoke bombs, some colored smoke bombs,
which is weird.
It is weird.
And then they're kind of like interviewing him with the smoke bombs, the purple smoke bombs going on.
And he's all like, "Oh yeah, the smog's real bad here in Arizona." And then the vice principal guy's like, "Right this way, Billy Idol." And then Shep Shepherd's like, Shep Shepherd reporting from deep in the smoke at Hubert Humphrey High. Like, come on, man. Like, no one's going to put that on the news.
And all of a sudden, Shep Shepherd is basically living at the school. He's there all the time.
Yeah.
Like when the day starts to the day ends, at nighttime, just waiting for something.
He's enrolled in class.
Yeah, that's right.
He's getting his GED.
Yeah. He's just auditing them, just sitting in.
He's serving the beans in the cafeteria.
Oh, he's doing everything.
Yeah.
He's janitor.
Yeah, he's got pom-poms. He's at the top of the pyramid. But and again, like every 10 minutes in this movie, I was like, wait a minute, the worst thing that's going to happen to Happy Harry Hardon is an FCC violation, which means they take away his
radio.
Yeah.
Can he just go get another one?
But that's why the plot, they throw in that totally ridiculous murder kind of charge or accessory to suicide.
But even then, he's 17, so he'd be out in a year anyway.
He wouldn't do any time for any of that.
I don't think so.
But I
don't know. It's Arizona, man. They're weird right wingers.
Yeah, well, he's a white guy. He's not going to go to jail. If he's a black dude doing this, he'd be they'd probably murder him.
And this whole thing again, it's like suburban disharmony, where it's just like, oh, Because a lot of these people who are listening to Happy Harry Hard-On are like, they have bicycles and the ghetto blasters in the cul-de-sac. And it's like, okay, yeah, suburbia has problems and blah, but I'm having a hard time caring about these like middle-class kids.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Well,
you know?
like middle-class kids have issues as well. You know,
Of
they're
course
all
they do, yeah.
They're all teenagers. All teenagers like want to rebel. They all hate everything.
But just show me a poor kid, you know, or a black kid.
Yeah, fair enough. This you could have made an awesome film if it were like underground hip hop DJ in like a ghetto or something.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be at all surprised if they
DJ or
reboot this. Like, I would not be surprised if they
but
did.
But it works for what it is. It happens to be about
middle class, because
suburban middle class.
Oh, and that's the whole setting too. The school.
Yeah.
And that's part of the film's like, you know, it works, but it can be heavy-handed where it's like seemingly on the surface it would be perfect there, but there's all that dissatisfaction underneath.
Yeah, I know. I guess, yeah. So anyway, so the cop's taking is just Mark, Christian Slater, goes to get his letters, his like dirty letters he's going to be in the air, and then the cops like show up, before he can get to his P.O. box.
Right.
And the cops go in, and also Shep Shepherd's there.
He's everywhere.
He's like, we're going to the post office to see the P.O. box or whatever.
How would they even know that was the P.O. box?
Well, somebody presumably Happy Harry Hard-On says like, send it to P.O. box, whatever.
Right.
That
would make sense. How would they know where to send it unless you mention it?
So they go in. The cop goes in, and by the way, it's not a beat cop. This guy's plain clothes. I'm like,
right? They brought in the detectives.
They're bringing in like fucking DCI Tennyson. They flew her in from fucking London.
Well, I guess there's not much going on in, I don't even know what city it's supposed to be. Whatever, mid-sized city in Arizona is.
Yeah.
What crime could be going on there?
When they're not tracking down illegal immigrants or whatever.
Yeah.
So they go in there and a character actor plays the guy at the fucking post office, but I couldn't remember what I'd seen him in. And this movie has loads of those actors. I'm going to need to see P.O. Box 101 or whatever. And the guy's like, what? I don't know. And he shows him his badge. I was hoping he would at least give me a, have you got a warrant? Yeah. I love it in movies when some cop is like, I got to see this private thing. And then some minimum wage earner is like, you know what? Fuck off if you don't have a warrant.
Yeah.
I've been dreaming the day somebody would come in, a cop would come in here and go like, I need to see what movies Jimbo Mahuga Chick has rented. And I'd be like, have you got a warrant? Then fuck off. It's the only little bit of power you have as a civilian over a cop.
Yep. And I'm not giving out Jimbo Mahubachek's information.
Learn your customers' names, dude.
I'm sorry. To anybody.
Anyway, so then it's like, oh, that P.O. box is registered to a Charles U. Farley, which anybody who's ever been a kid knows the Charles U. Farley joke.
Of course.
I think it's Cheech and Chong.
Is it Cheech? Yeah.
And they're kind of like, Charles U. Farley. And then the cop is like, Chuck U. Farley.
I like this guy.
I'm like, hey, Columbo figured that one out real quick. No, but it's also like plainclothes officer. Like, if I was a fucking cop in Arizona, you'd work your way up off the Flatfoot beat. You solve some murders and shit. You finally get to be plain clothes, and then you got to go into some post office, and it's like Charles. You'd be like, "Oh, fuck off with your Charles V. Farley."
Well, your big case is finding out some kid with a ham radio.
Yeah.
Who's talking to other kids, basically.
No, they think he's some kind of Svengali-like figure, like forcing the children of Arizona to blow their fucking brains out. What are you doing, Alex?
Mind your own business.
We're doing a podcast, and you're checking your stocks.
Yeah, and so the cops basically, there's a whole bunch of scenes where they're like trying to track him down, and there's a bit where they're like, "Yeah, we'll triangulate the phone call," and Happy Harry Hard-On phone, but he knows, and he phones up Counselor Dweebman, and he's all like, "Whoa." And you're supposed to.
And Counselor Dweebman is like, he's like, I've got this guy now. He's all like high and mighty.
Hello, my young friend. My young friend. And then you see the cops coming in and the sad music, and Happy Harry Hard-On's just like, I guess I'm going to get arrested now. And I'm like, come on, movie. We all know better.
Yeah.
And it turns out that his phone.
I don't know how that works. He put some sort of phone in a neighbor's shed or something like that. I don't know
it's
how
a
that works,
cordless phone
it's
that's in the neighbor's
transmitter.
Yeah. And the cop goes like, same cop who's like, Charles U. Farley, he could be anywhere within 1,000 yards.
Which isn't that much.
What is that?
Like
much. 16 houses?
Yeah,
that's like from here across the street, basically.
And just unplug his phone.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
It's like, and Harry Hardin's like, some old couple is unknowingly giving me my phone fees.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now But what happens when your phone runs out of battery power? Do you have to go back to that little shed?
Yeah.
I don't know all the technical mumbo jumbo about this, but it made sense because I don't understand it.
Have you ever had a cordless phone in the 90s?
I don't know. You know, I had one of those phones that in the 80s. I had one of those phones that you put your ear and you're talking to it like this, like an old timey 30s phone.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
It was like you pull the earpiece.
Oh, you
off,
mean you say in the 30s,
here, and then you
you say Pennsylvania 65000.
Exactly. Yeah, Klondike 451.
No, but like cordless phones in 1990
they
would run out of battery power. You'd have to put them back on the charger.
You still have to do that.
So did Happy Harry Hardon, when he's done his show, have to
crawl in the neighbor's shed?
Yeah, crawl in the old lady's shed and put his phone back. And how do they not notice a phone on the floor of their fucking shed? Anyway, I know I'm asking too many questions.
Yeah,
but when he's like 1,000 yards, I'm like,
I know that
you mean
was
that
hilarious.
house or that house?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of these three houses here.
Hey,
But
there's a guy pretending to jerk off into a microphone over there.
Again.
I wonder if that's the guy we're looking for.
I don't even know. I didn't know.
They have a PTA meeting. They have a big meeting because of Happy Harry Hardon.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and all the parents are like, "We got to get rid of Happy. He might be Mexican or whatever." You know, and then it's like they're all like, "We need to go back to our houses and listen to Happy Harry Hardon now."
That's so weird.
And he's like, "Oh, Mom," you know, and Happy Harry Hardon happens to be at the meeting. He's like, "Mom, I'm going to go back home and study."
Right.
I know why you're really going home. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
You want to listen to that radio show.
The parents still haven't figured out that their son,
is
who
Happy
just moved to town with them and has a ham radio
and access to the school files,
yeah, is in
and
fact,
said on his radio show,
yes.
"I just moved here with my dad, who's the vice principal or the fucking counselor or whatever."
He's the king of the counselors.
And my mom's name is Joan, and so then they go home.
My mom's name is
he
Joan.
runs home and he's doing his Happy Harry Hardon show, and for some reason, Mom and Dad are like, "Let's go downstairs and visit our son right at this very moment." and he's doing the thing where they're like, open this door. And he's like, hold on a second.
Homework.
And he's like throwing blankets over. So anyone listening to the Happy Harry Hardon show is hearing like, "Hold on, Mom and Dad."
Yeah, that's right.
Just a minute.
Hold on a second. And so
all the stuff being knocked down.
But if they bought him the ham radio, why is he fucking covering it up?
I know.
Like, and he's all sweaty and stuff and opens the door. Oh yeah, and Nora has come over.
Yeah, but we think she's left by now.
That's right.
Because they had a bit of an argument because he's like, "I really don't want a hand job."
Like, dude, she likes you.
Fuck her.
Yeah.
Like, on the radio. Fuck her on the air.
Exactly.
That'd be amazing.
That's your shtick. But yeah, and then so like the parents are about to bust him or whatever, and then she pops up from behind the couch. And then her dad says something kind of sleazy or something like that.
Nice tits.
Something like that.
No, but they're knocking on the door, and this happens in movies all the time.
I think he calls her he calls him a bad, dirty dog.
He goes,
which is
before
weird.
he leaves him. Yeah.
This whole scene is kind of creepy.
I'm like, gross, Dad. Like, come on.
He's all sweaty, and he's like, "We heard you." This always makes me laugh in movies when it's like, parents of a teenage boy are like, "Why isn't he opening the door right now? I wonder what could be going on in
Why
there.
is the water running?"
Like, do you?
9 times out of 10, he's wanking it. Yeah.
So as he opens the door, and it's like, "We heard you talking to yourself," and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was reading." I love that he actually got it right. He goes, "Aloud, not out loud." I was reading aloud, and then and it's like, and they're like, "Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to?" And Happy Harry Hardon has no answer.
Right. And she pops up out of nowhere.
And it's just like, "Oh yeah, he was finger banging me or whatever." And the dad's all like, "Nice one, you dirty dog."
Yeah, you bad dirty dog.
Dirty dog.
So all the listeners have heard all of this happening.
Yeah. Well, no. He's I wish I would love it if Mark, open that door right now.
you bad dirty
Mark
dog.
Jones. Yeah, so then the parents go upstairs, and it's actually pretty well timed because he starts the radio show immediately after they leave.
Yep.
And by the time they're at the top of the stairs, he's back on the air making fart noises.
Yeah.
And they're just like, "Oh my God." And then the mom is like, "He's a dirty dog. You used to be a dirty dog," or some shit. And then they go upstairs and start boning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all it takes.
And
They're
then
hippies.
Happy Harry takes his shirt off.
For some reason.
She takes her shirt off.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, you get to see these boobs.
They're rolling around on the AstroTurf. That was a nice little scene.
It was a nice little scene.
Yeah.
But I don't think the toplessness was necessary. I think they got an R rating. I don't think they really need to have the breasts in the
The
scene.
distributor was probably demanding some nudity.
Probably.
A lot of teen films.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't find it gratuitous.
I didn't think it was gratuitous.
I've seen worse, obviously.
Oh, I just didn't know. I'm like, well, I guess I'm so concerned with like the PG-13 rating and blah 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 these days.
Well, there's no way. There's no with the dialogue. There's no way this movie would have been rated.
So
PG.
it would have been an R, like at least mature, probably
I think
R.
So. Probably R. In the States, they give an R for if someone farts. Like
see,
they're really generous at throwing R's out.
Yeah.
Unless it's really violent, then they're okay with that.
But a movie that is marketed to teenagers, you'd think that you wouldn't want an R rating. You think you'd want
yes, of course. It's a kiss of death for that kind of thing.
Like mature. Remember mature movies? You had like general, then you had mature.
There's so many fucking ratings.
R.
I don't know what.
No. But back in the day, there were only the three. There was general, mature.
It depends where you were as well. Like I grew up in Ontario, and there was PG 14 or something like that.
Yeah, PG 13 came around because of Gremlins.
And then
right?
R, and R you could not. You had to be 18. You could not go to see a movie even in the company of adult, which in the States, that's what R is. If you go with someone that's over 18, you can go to an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
But in Ontario, you had to be 18 to go to an R-rated movie.
Oh, you couldn't even... Wow.
I remember trying to go see... I wanted to go see Apocalypse Now, actually, with my dad.
And
I guess I would have been 1979. I would have been 14. And I looked at the rating. It said must be accompanied by an adult, anyone under 17.
So you went and saw Herbie the Love Bug instead.
I don't remember what I went and saw. My friend and I went with our dads, and our dads went and saw Apocalypse Now. I'm sure they found it really boring.
And you waited in the car.
Yeah, for 3.5 hours. No, my friend and I went and saw something else, but I don't remember what it was. But I was so mad because I really wanted to see this movie.
At 14, you wanted to see Apocalypse Now?
Fuck yeah, man. It looked awesome.
Huh.
Yeah. No, I was...
another one of those movies that I just...
We could talk. We should have a podcast about how wrong you are about.
Please
so
don't
many
make me
movies.
ever watch a Francis Ford Coppola movie. Any Francis Ford Coppola movie.
What about Jack?
That I'll watch.
Of course you will.
I'll watch Jack because I've never seen it, and it's probably not 8 hours long and like over.
Oh, you know it's going to be terrible.
Hold on. We're getting,
anyway, let's get back.
We're
to this
digressing.
Thing here. Yes.
So and now at this point, it's ridiculous. Like the FCC guy. Teen Wolf's dad comes in from fucking Washington D.C.
in a limo. Hey, they've got like two FCC vans.
By the way, does the FCC drive around in limousines?
I don't know.
Like a pimp.
That was weird. Yeah, I know. I don't know.
And he's the dorkiest of all dweebs.
Yeah. This is what it's getting kind of, the movie's starting to go off the rails a bit with their caricatures.
And the teenagers are now like, fucking happy Harry Hard-On.
Well, they're all gathering in the I guess it's the field outside of the school because it's where it gets the best reception.
Yeah.
But they're all gathering. It's like a nightly thing, and now the field's full of them.
Right now after
now it's a party.
This PTA meeting. Holy shit!
Oh yeah, this is when the
and then they burn an effigy of the principal.
That's right. That's right.
I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that on school grounds.
They put her in a noose first, and then burned her.
And they set her on fire like she's Margaret Thatcher, and it's a small mining town in the 80s. I'm like, what? Okay, come on,
Yeah.
And again,
I thought that was pretty awesome.
See, I would just not go to school. Like when I was in grade 12, I pretty much gave up. Right. I went to the classes that I wanted to go to, but I would have never burned an effigy to my principal. And the thing is, when I was 15, I'm like, oh, it's so fucking badass. But now
Was that a Scottish accent you just did there?
I don't know what accent that was, but that was a 1990 accent. It was a Surrey accent.
Oh well, that makes sense.
It was a Wally Surrey accent.
Wow, terrifying.
Now I was watching it when I saw the burning effigy. I was like, those kids are out of control. I was like...
Was this when the giant penis came in, or did that come in earlier?
That was way earlier.
Way earlier.
I'm okay with a giant penis, but I'm like...
I'm okay with the burning the effigy.
Even with Margaret Thatcher, you shouldn't burn a fucking effigy.
Yeah, you should. Well, maybe you should have burned her.
It's weird to make fake people and then hang them and then burn them.
It is really weird.
For any reason. It's just it's like burning the flag. I don't agree with it, but I wouldn't do it.
I could care less. It's a fucking flag. Who cares?
But anyway, so... And at the school, it's been ratcheting up.
Mm-hmm.
They've been spray painting the walls,
yeah,
and the grass. At one point, they spray painted like "Talk Hard" in the grass.
Yeah, and
I'm like, what good is that going to do?
Well, I think at one point they said shut down the whole school.
Well, that's when the PA system has gone awry.
Oh, right, because they're playing the music and stuff.
They can't get it off the
PA
system, so it's like shut down the whole school.
Do you remember what song that was when they were playing? I can't remember which one it was.
I can't remember now.
But it was pretty awesome though.
She's like, hit the self-destruct button.
Turn your key.
That's only for emergencies.
This is when
it's like Dead Zone. Like, if you don't put your hand on that fucking screen, I'll cut it off and put it there myself.
That would have been awesome.
This school will blow up.
This is what I have written here. Does Shep Shepherd live at the school? Because he's just there all the time.
He's like a pervert.
Yeah. He's on the cheerleading squad.
Yeah,
he's mowing the lawn.
All of a sudden,
he's painting the lines on the football
All of a
field.
sudden, he's got like this pregnant girlfriend. I'm allowed to have sex with 16-year-olds because I never graduated. Isn't that how it works?
This is in Dazed and Confused.
So Happy Harry Hotten's like, well, fuck, man. They're going to triangulate where I'm at. So good thing I have this Jeep. And so he does a little MacGyver. What I want to know is how is he going to play records? I guess it was tapes.
It was cassette. It was all cassette tapes. Occasional records.
And he's driving around, and there's a whole thing where he gets into a fight with his girlfriend of 2 hours ago, and then he shows up and goes, "Hey, it's been 3 hours. We should get back together. I need you to drive my Jeep."
Which is weird because he drove the Jeep there, but he can't drive, and she gets.
No, he can drive. It's just that he can't drive and broadcast at the same time.
Oh, I thought he didn't have a driver's license or something.
So they're driving around, and the FCC is like. They're parked in front of the school, and teenagers are vandalizing it. There's a bit where the FCC guy, the Teen Wolf's dad, is like, we at the FCC believe in Fred. And he looks over, and it says something like the FCC licks balls or whatever, spray paint on the side. He's like, this is not freedom of speech. This is vandalism. I'm like, I wonder what the point of the movie is.
But he also says at one point, this is why I hate freedom of speech, like just the drive.
Right.
And at one point, it's like... Home. Drive over them like this. It's like he's trapped in his limo,
and all they're doing is like they're making faces at him, and he's losing his mind.
I work for the government. Run them over.
Drive over them.
This is just like Tiananmen Square. Yeah, it gets cartoonish.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, he must be moving around, and so Teen Wolf's dad of the FCC goes, just start pulling people over at random. Like I don't think you can do that.
No.
Like. The FCC, I don't think
they have no power.
They can't tell a cop to do anything.
No,
they're the fucking FCC. All they can do is issue fines and shut down radio stations.
Yeah,
no,
they don't chase people around in cop cars and helicopters and stuff like that.
Well, they certainly don't have the authority to tell the police. And by the way,
I don't know.
Aren't there rapes happening and murders?
It is Arizona, probably.
They're just like, what's going on with this fucking Happy Harry Hard-On guy?
I know.
Anyways,
all the police force, all their resources, helicopters, everything have gone in to stopping this guy on the radio. This ham radio guy
who masturbates on the air.
Yeah, and whose range is probably maybe 2 or 3 miles.
Well, or like 1,000 feet,
1,000 yards, yeah,
1,000 yards. And so the cops are chasing him and whatever, and then they pull up onto the school property, but they don't realize that all the kids are there down at the bottom of the hill. And then he looks, and he's like, "Oh no, my voice changer
it broke because he was driving
broke.
around.
So now they're gonna hear my Christian Slater voice, And there's this kind of a touching moment where he starts to have it's okay, we're all messed up, man.
Yeah.
Buy my book or whatever the hell he was trying to say.
Buy my book.
And it's this big
Subscribe
moment.
to my podcast.
Everyone's starting to cry. Even the evil principal is kind of like, oh yeah, he's got a point. And then a fucking helicopter, a killicopter, like
killicopter.
What did a killicopter just
behind them on the cliff?
I know.
The FCC chopper. Am I expected to like they're seeking out swear words in the air?
Yeah,
it's swear force.
Well, you can't have any kind of teenagers having any kind of thoughts or rebellious thoughts or anything like that.
No, because grown-ups.
You got to squash them to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, basically.
You will be indoctrinated. That'd be great if at the end Christian Slater is just like walking and he goes to school and he's all boring.
Yeah.
And then he goes out to like he's walking home, and then Nora or whatever her name is,
Mark.
Like that'd be fucking amazing.
That would be awesome.
I'm adult now. And so they go for a drive while they're being chased, and then he gets arrested in front of everybody.
Yeah.
I guess Ellen Green, good teacher, confronts evil.
She's been fired at this point.
She
goes and finds a secret file. You see her go into his safe at some point in the school, even though she's been let go. The night of the chaos, and she finds the incriminating records that sinks the principal.
So the evil principal just kept...
dossier of her evil
people
plans.
I'm gonna fucking...
Yeah, she got rid of a whole bunch of students
expel.
to keep the grade point average up to get more money for the school.
That's right, yeah.
And this is when her dad comes through, and even the Weasley
guidance counselor.
You know, the Weasley, McDorkins or whatever his name is.
Senior McDorkins.
The guidance counselor, he is like, these kids have a right to an education. This is absurd.
Mm. Yeah.
And then that's when she's all like, I'm surprised he didn't have a button to push, and he falls down a trap door.
Well, she's basically snarling at him right at this point.
Yeah.
And she pulls her eyes glow red.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. So she gets taken away or arrested. I don't know. She loses her job. Whatever. The bad person gets a bad thing happen. And but Ellen Green is still fired, and everyone else is still expelled.
Yeah, well, that we have to assume that might change because she's been fired. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah,
but it's giving more of a hopeful outcome. You know, he's got a good message at the end. You know, being a teenager sucks, but it gets better.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's sort of. Yeah, he's like the point is to survive it, so you can be a lame ass middle aged person and host a podcast in the future.
In a video store, it's well past its expiry date.
Yeah, and then as he's being arrested, even though I don't think he actually did anything illegal.
No,
I'm pretty sure you can't arrest somebody just for driving around with a fucking tape deck in his Jeep.
Yeah, or talking.
And they're arresting him, and then he takes one look, and he goes, "Talk hard!"
That's right. And then movie.
And everyone cheers.
Yeah. And then that song, Stand Tall.
Yeah, it's a Sly and the Family Stone song.
Which has one of my favorite lines in it. There's a midget standing tall. It's like, oh my god.
Next to a giant that's about to
There's
fall.
a guy in a wheelchair trying to stand.
But yeah, it's an old Sly and the Family Stone song, but I'm not sure who's covering it here.
Yeah, it's kind of a dated song, obviously, but yeah, there you go. That's the end of Pump Up the Volume.
I mean, one thing I really liked about this movie was there
there
was a way they filmed this weird alienation of the suburbs that really worked. Like there's a scene when he's walking to work to school by himself.
Yeah, and he's going past all the houses.
He's going past all the houses being
Wave
built.
of Mutilations playing.
I like that version of Wave of Mutilations.
You mean the original?
The one that's really slow?
Oh, isn't that the original?
I don't know which one's the original. I think this was done for the movie.
No, you're right. Yeah, sorry. I say the original because it's the first version I heard, which was on the soundtrack, but it's actually the Pixies doing a slower version of their own song.
It's a good version of it.
But it's like a really nice, like he's just by himself in this dry desert suburb with that song. But like, there's a lot of really great moments.
Mm-hmm.
Pump Up the Volume, 1990, Christian Slater. Let's start with you, Mr.
Me?
Darren. 2 questions.
Yes.
Question 1, does it hold up? Question 2, Monday here at Black Dog Video is 2 for 1 Monday.
Back to good old 2 for 1s.
So let's say somebody brings Pump Up the Volume up to the counter. What movie would you recommend that they pair with it? So question 1, does it hold up? Question 2, what movie would you pair?
So I should do question 1 first?
Well, what do you think? Should we?
I'll go question 1 first.
Well, or do you want to do this like, does it hold up? We all answer and then we do the next thing. But that
doesn't really matter.
Does it hold up? And what movie would you pair with this?
Okay. Yes, this movie more than holds up. I think it's one of the better films we've done from this era. I thought it was great. It's not a perfect movie, but the last act with the driving around and stuff I could have done without. But there's a lot of good ideas here, and I still think it's relevant today. I think maybe because teenagers have always been kind of fucked up and rebellious and angry at the system or whatever, and always have stuff to say. I think it speaks volumes to alienation and adolescence, and I think it's great. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. It made me laugh, and it's a smart teen movie, which is you don't see too many of those.
Yeah.
Especially back then. You see more now. There's a lot more smart teen movies now.
Yeah.
But back in the day, most of them were, sex, stupid, comedy kind of stuff.
Yeah, outside of John Hughes, you didn't get a lot of movies like that.
No. And even some of the John Hughes stuff is, whatever, like Weird Science, whatever. But, I thought it totally held up, and I would highly recommend it to anybody.
So you'd recommend it. Now, it's Monday here at Black Dog Video. Somebody brings Pump Up the Volume up to the counter. It's 2 for 1. What movie do you recommend they watch with?
Well, I was thinking about this when I was watching it, and there's a few obvious ones that popped into my mind. I hope I don't, if you guys have chose one of these obvious ones that I'm not picking, but I don't want to belittle your choice.
Because we kind of we had a drink yesterday, or you said that you thought of the perfect pairing like within 3 minutes of watching this,
right?
And for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is.
My pairing for this is 1967 Mike Nichols film The Graduate.
Really?
Yeah. I could see this being almost like a sequel to Pump Up the Volume. This is with the main character after graduating, high school and university, just still disillusioned and hating authority, parents, trying to find out what's going on in the world. I thought it could be like almost a direct sequel.
You just blew my mind, man. I would have never guessed The Graduate.
Oh, well, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's a really good pairing because I was going to go with some of the obvious ones, which I'll mention after you guys.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to.
Because the obvious ones are obvious.
Yeah, if you guys pick them, that's fine.
I've got
too,
two very obvious ones. I'm thinking Alex might pick one of them, so I've got.
I think Alex has 7 picks.
I've got one on the back burner. So Darren's pick to pair up is Mike Nichols, 1967,
The Graduate,
classic.
which I think is a better film because it's an all-around better film.
Far better, yeah.
But you know what? I don't know which is the better soundtrack.
Oh, I don't know. The soundtrack's great for that because it's of the era.
They're both great soundtracks.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Alex Chisholm, question number 1: do you believe that Pump Up the Volume holds up?
Yes, it does hold up. It's a completely fun movie. I would, I'd recommend it to really anyone to watch it, but especially like younger viewers, because even if you kind of grown in it the way I did when I was that age, it still gets the message through. And it's also cool to see. It kind of in its own way kind of predicts like everyone having a platform someday.
Yeah.
Like, because the film also ends too after he's been arrested.
Oh,
You
yeah.
hear other broadcasts.
Right, because he's saying, get out there, do your own show, do all
Yeah,
this.
it's just
Get your
cool.
voice
It's a
out
cool,
there.
even for a nice look at the, not just what it has to say, but also it's a cool look at like the technology of that time. And how, not just what people wanted to say, but how they would say it back then.
And like mixtapes.
And
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I really liked seeing these close-up shots of like mixtape,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
handwritten mixtapes and
Yeah,
stuff.
well, because we all went through that. I'd love giving mixtapes to like girls and stuff.
It was a specialty of mine. I used to take them to parties.
Dartmouth Barn parties.
But
well, they didn't have electricity in those
for
bars.
pairings, is that the next question?
Yeah. So
I have 3 possibilities.
So it is what? It's only 3.
I know. Maybe I was exaggerating a little bit.
So it is Monday here at Black Dog Video, which is 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Somebody brings Pump Up the Volume up to the counter. What movie do you
Or
recommend?
4 for 2, I guess.
3. There's 3 possibilities. It goes without saying Heathers, of course.
That was my first.
Also with
pick,
Christian Slater, but the other 2 I'd recommend is one called Over the Edge, which was written by the guy who also wrote River's Edge later on. But that's a movie with a young Matt Dillon but much more violent, where kids really go out and start messing around and getting violent. Yeah, get fucking shit up in a suburb. It says a lot about like moving the suburbs and not giving the kids enough to do. That or Oliver Stone's Talk Radio.
That was my other obvious pick
for broadcasting.
Alex, you took both my fucking picks.
Both of them? You're joking. Over the Edge?
No, Heathers and Talk Radio were obvious.
You can expand. I won't talk about.
Fine.
I won't talk about Talk Radio. I'll let you talk about it.
In the next 30 seconds, I'll frantically think of some other goddamn movie.
But I won't.
You had to have 3. Yeah. You couldn't give me Heathers, and you couldn't give me Talk Radio.
Well, I didn't talk about Heathers or Talk Radio, though. I talked more about.
But you didn't mention them.
So that's why
that's
why you pick one.
Okay, but tell us.
And you talk about that one.
Yeah, well.
You greedy piece of shit.
Yeah, but we'd never have this great rant. I'd rather hear you rant like this than talk about Talk Radio.
I knew this is exactly what was going to happen because the 2 obvious picks when I was thinking of it was Talk Radio and Heathers.
Yeah. Over the Edge.
I was sitting there. I'm
sitting there. Over the Edge is the best of those 3 for the picks. That's what you should have went with and not mentioned the other ones.
Over the Edge is a great soundtrack too. Van Halen,
you had to hog them all.
The Cars.
You could
the Ramones. I've got the soundtrack.
There's a lot of teen rebellion films out there. You can pick if that's the way you want to go. You don't have to have something that's the same theme.
No, I just thought of something.
Little Shop of Horrors.
I don't know. Why even bother now?
Well, how about we start with? Do you think it holds up? Talk about that.
Yeah, it holds up.
I
don't want to do this anymore. I'm canceling the podcast. Yeah, it absolutely. Are you done? Or have you
ruining Dylan's
Or have you
life?
read my mind and you know the 4th fucking miracle one I just thought of just now, which isn't even like a very good pairing.
It's not even a movie.
But I got to go with it.
What is it?
Okay, I'll tell you in a second.
Does it hold up?
Absolutely, it holds up. There's a great sense of relief when I watched this because I was like, is this going to be My Cousin Vinny all over again?
I've never seen that.
A movie that I thought was great, and then I rewatched with my girlfriend and was embarrassed that I talked so highly of it. My Cousin Vinny sucks, folks. It sucks. I don't send your letters to Darren Gay at blackdogvideo.ca. No,
123.
But it's like,
Street,
and so with this one, it's just like I don't know, So I watched it with my girlfriend today, and we both loved it just as much as the first time. I think it's great. In fact, I think it's actually better.
Had Robin seen it before?
Oh yeah, she's seen it. But she had a huge crush on Christian Slater. She owned it and stuff, right? She was actually quoting the lines.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is my generation. Anyway, she's a little bit younger than I am.
Does she still have the Christian Slater blow up doll in the house?
Yeah, but now it looks more like a Jack Nicholson blow up.
Right.
It's got
old wrinkles.
It's deflated. Absolutely, 100% holds up. It is a little bit corny and a little bit cheesy, but
it wears its heart on its sleeve a little much.
It does,
which is okay though.
But at the same time, there were themes that I didn't quite pick up on when I was 15 watching this thing.
What's masturbation?
It doesn't sound like that.
No.
It's silent and sad.
But the thing is,
as God intended.
It is silent and sad. But that doesn't really transform very well on radio.
It's not slippity slappity, I would give it a solid B+, A. I really liked it. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. If it's 2 for $1 Monday,
and you happen to be working,
and you haven't already brought talk radio
or
Heather's.
Or Over the Edge,
or The Graduate,
Gleaming the Cube.
In my head, I was trying to choose. Between talk radio and Heather's as what the better pick actually is, because talk radio is I think it's more consistent in like what technically what the movie is about, but Heather's I think in spirit,
for sure
is much more. I'm gonna say the Judd Apatow comedy series Freaks and Geeks.
That's a good call.
The whole series.
The entire series.
Can we do that? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, we can do TV series.
We can do whatever we want.
How about WKRP?
Don't even. You've already ruined...
You've
already crushed my life once in the last 20 minutes. Don't do it again.
Don't do it again.
Freaks and Geeks, I think, is a very heartfelt and sincere look at what it's like to be a teenager, to feel awkward. Show. It's not as serious as Pump Up the Volume, but given that I only had like 2 minutes to think of a third option, and if we don't have Freaks and Geeks, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I thought one of you would pick Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, it's more of a fun, goofy,
Yeah, but
it does have some serious issues.
But a character has an abortion in Fast Times,
Is it played for laughs?
I don't even really like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
It's okay.
But,
I love it.
But Pump Up the Volume seemed like it did have a lot in common, or at least that Mr. Foreskin,
because they had
the director had at least seen it,
right,
and it had influenced
because it had like 30-year-old teenagers in it, like Jess Spicoli.
By the way, or Judge Reinhold, who looked like he was old enough to be a judge.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Dredd.
that is it. For our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We recorded this at Black Dog Video on Commercial Drive in East Vancouver, 1470 Commercial Drive. Check out our website at www.blackdogvideo.ca. We have a fancy new website with videos.
There's more stuff coming to it too.
And photos and all that stuff.
Yeah. There's some cool videos there. Check them out.
Yeah, there are some cool videos. Darren, you're doing your weekly movies I should have seen by now.
Yes,
series?
Yeah. It started last year when the plague hit, and it actually morphed out of a thing I was doing with my kid called we called it father and son and sometimes wife movie class. So I was showing my kid Gus all these films that give him a history, a good bed of film knowledge and stuff.
Yes.
And so we ended up watching stuff that was awesome, stuff I hadn't seen before, and it just sort of morphed into like, oh, I should probably watch more films I hadn't seen before.
Yes.
So yeah, it's I'm just going back, and I'm not even going back. I'm going and I'm finally watching movies I should have seen. I have all these great movies, like I'm surrounded by them every day.
Literally dozens of movies.
Hundreds, thousands of movies.
Yeah.
And so it's been fun.
Lots of movies.
Any movies within 1,000 yards.
1,000 yards that
within 1,000 yards.
But yeah, it's been fun.
And we post a new video, your video, every Monday at Black Dog Video Empire on YouTube.
Yep.
You can find all the information at blackdogvideo.ca.
Yeah, go there and check it out.
I don't know if there's anything WWWKRP in Cincinnati. Anyways, thank you to Greg.
Thanks, Greg, once again.
Our sound person who makes us sound so sexy.
And human.
So, I have been Dylan Reimer.
I'm Alex Chisholm.
I'm still Darren Gay.
This has been Black Dog AD.
Blackdog8, www.blackdog8. Don't even. No, that's not a real thing.
No.
Anyway, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Watch Public Volume and talk hard.
Talk hard.
Everybody knows that the dice.
The Black Dog After Dark podcast is recorded at Black Dog Video on Commercial Drive in Vancouver, Canada. It's presented by Alex Chisholm, Darren Gay, and Dylan Reimer. It is produced by Dylan Reimer and Darren Gay. Alex just kind of stands there and drinks beer. The intro and outro music was recorded by Tiger Burning Bright, composed by Jeff, who works at Jefferson's Barbershop, also on Commercial Drive. And he's a damn good hairstylist.
This is the problem with free speech. Would you cut that thing, please?
He's the kind of phony in politics who wears a wig.
Did you just turn the damn thing off? Christ.